Let's talk about the Chestnut Man and why you should consider reading it in 2025 if you haven't already. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria and I read a lot, and today we're gonna talk about this thriller that I recently read and watched on Netflix. And the sequel is already out in Swedish and in Danish and maybe some other languages, and will be released in English in March of 2026. So if you want to be ready for the next adventure, then you should really get going on this one. The Chestnut Man is the first novel released by Søren Sveistrup, a Danish screenwriter and writer. The Chestnut Man is a thrilling story filled with so many unexpected twists and turns. It takes place in Denmark, and you get to follow the police officers Naja Thulin and also Mark Hess as main characters. I was first a little hesitant to read it because I think crime novels can sometimes be too gruesome, but my friend convinced me to read it and I'm so happy for that. I have honestly nothing negative to say about this book, almost. The story begins with a woman found brutally murdered and a Chestnut Man placed by her. And on the chestnut figurine they find fingerprints from a young woman who is missing since last year and is presumably dead. I love when a crime story is really well thought out and well planned and nothing feels out of place, and every piece of the puzzle is designed to take you further along the story. Naja Thulin, who works at the Danish police, is forced to cooperate with her new partner Mark Hess, even though he seems kind of special. And he's also kicked out of Europol and is on temporary leave back in Denmark. One of the things I really enjoyed reading about them was that they are both really bright, and I also like to see how their cooperation and how their work relationship is developing. And I think it's so rare to read a crime story where none of the main characters has some kind of mental disease, some kind of physical disease, no brain tumors, no psychosis, no drug addiction, or no alcohol abuse. So it was really fun reading two just bright, smart people trying to piece this puzzle together and trying to find the killer. And now we're headed into spoiler territory. So if you haven't read it, please click out of this video and come back when you have. And like I said, I really enjoyed reading about these smart police officers, but it was also interesting to read about a really smart murderer who outsmarted them time and time again. The story really swept me away and I just couldn't put it down. As soon as you thought something was about to happen, the next twist and turn came in the book. I was really frustrated to read about Nylander, the police chef, that was working against them and was more wrapped up in his own head and his own fame and really wanted to get this case closed instead of following the actual evidence which Naja and Hess brought out in front of them. I really enjoyed the ending as well, when everything was laid out in front of you and you got Rosa's background and you got to know about the killer and his sister. I really also enjoyed that the story took place in Denmark because as I'm Swedish, I think it's nice because you really feel like home when you're reading because it looks similar, but at the same time it's a little different setting. I think that there must be so many more chestnut trees in Denmark compared to Sweden. There are some here, but it seems so common that they were picking chestnuts, they were roasting them, they were making figurines out of them, and they even had that song which I never heard before. Of course, like in the old times before people had any toys here, it was common to make toys out of pine cones, but not out of chestnuts. So that was interesting. I also just finished the Netflix series and I thought it was really well done, and I think it followed the book really well. Of course there were some differences, but those things didn't really matter. The thing that stood out to me was that I think Nylander was worse in the book and they had toned him down. I think he seemed more cooperative and nice in the series. And I thought they could have kept him like he was in the book actually. And I also think they made her relationship with her daughter worse in the series. I know that it was strained and her grandfather took care of her a lot because Naja was working a lot. I don't remember that her daughter asked to live with the grandfather instead of her. And like I said before, I enjoyed that the main characters, of course they were having some problems, but they weren't having like major life issues going on at the same time. I don't really like that they added that. But at the same time, since the murderer was obsessed with bad mothers, and this made her a worse mother for not being able to be there for her child, maybe it fitted into the story. But I still liked it at the level it was at in the book, because you could understand that it was a hard situation for both of them, but not really that bad. I also thought it was fun to watch the series and also watch it with someone who hadn't read the book. My boyfriend actually caught quite fast that it was probably someone in the police who was the murderer, because the killer was so easily ahead of their investigation all the time, and that he actually understood where Jessica was when they hid her in the cabin. I hadn't thought about that when I read, and that was fun to see how someone else was puzzling this story together. So, if you haven't read the book, I really think you should give it a go, especially before March of 2026, so you're ready when the English sequel comes out. It's called Hide and Seek, and I hope it will be as good as this one was. If you haven't read the book, you could still watch the Netflix series. I think it was really well done as well. But like I said, I always recommend that you should read before you watch. And if you thought this book seemed interesting, I also think you should check out this one.